taking over Earth and still kicking in Uranus.
The Road to Potomania, presented by Opinions and Beer. Tag along in this annual event with Adam and Ed Ray 1416 into the world of pro wrestling.
You're listening to Opinions and Beer.
Stone Cold Steve Austin knows that the Opinions and Beer podcast exists in this world.
And opinions and beer. Two guys and another guy.
Will never happen again.
I can't believe it! We are on the road to Potomania! I'm Adam.
And this is Ed Ray.
This is Opinions and Beer. We already said our names. We're gonna get on today. This is going to be a very long episode of Wrestling with Alcohol. No. Of the road to Potomania. Today we got a bunch of things to cover. We're gonna continue our series of ranking the main events before Mania, is what we're calling it. And depending on when you're listening to this, we're gonna go ahead and give our Elimination Chamber predictions, our Elimination Chamber 2021 predictions. So, should we kick it off with the predictions or start with the throwbacks? Start with the throwbacks. You know what? Because I want people to listen for the longest, we will start with the throwbacks and then make it to the predictions. Okay? That way, because, if we do an hour episode, who knows how many people will actually listen to the full hour. And I'd rather have the dated stuff, which is, predictions will be dated if we're wrong. It's like, oh, they were wrong, What's the point? So, we'll finish the show with predictions. Start with the throwback. But before we get into any of that, we're going to do the beer of the day. And today's beer of the day is brought to you by Texas Leaguer. This is 3 up, 3 down Imperial Indian Pale Ale, coming in at 8.6% in alcohol by volume. 3 up, 3 down. It's the bottom of the ninth, and you need someone dependable to seal the victory. Like a reliable closer, you expect your Imperial IPA to be a strong option with an arsenal of different characteristics. 3 up, 3 down is a lights out choice that steps up to the challenge. Texas Leaguer Brewing Company is over in Missouri City, Texas. I have not had any beers from them yet, but they are very baseball themed. They're a baseball themed brewery. And hopefully this episode is a home run. Oh, baseball puns. Now I'm going to try this beer. Woo! That is quite bitter. I don't know what the IBUs are on this. And this is kind of an older can. But, well, the bitterness is kind of there. It's kind of... I mean, it's good. 8.6. It's not the best, though. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of... has kind of like an odd brut taste to it. And I wasn't expecting it. And so... would I buy this again? No. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. That's a fast rating, but I'm sorry. I was not... It tastes very typical. It tastes a little too brutty for me. And I was expecting like this imperial floral badassery beer. But this is an older can, so maybe I should give them another shot down the line. But Texas Leaguer, so far, 3 ups, 3 downs. You are 3 downs. Anyways, moving on to the road of Potomania. Ed Ray, have you enjoyed the road to Potomania so far?
As good as it's gonna get.
As good as it's gonna get. BS, it's gonna get better.
How so?
How so? Because we're in the middle of a 2021 winter storm and shit's warming up. The podcast is warming up.
At least the podcast isn't responsible for pipes being bust all over the South.
Man, we're about to see a big boom in our podcast once again because guess what's back?
What is it?
Parler. Parler is back. So if you have a Parler, go over there right now. Follow Opinions and Beer on Parler. Parler is back, which means a lot of our listenerships that we were getting from Parler is going to return, and so hopefully we can start seeing a boom here in the end of February and March. I think we're going to start seeing a bigger boom for the podcast because Parler really helped us scale December, and I think we'll see what happens. But anyways, moving on, we're going to continue with our series talking about the main events before Mania. About 2 episodes ago, last episode, me and Ed Ray discussed the Attitude Era of the main event prior to Mania. I think I can't remember if we both ranked Rock and Kurt Angle as the best Attitude Era match of the main event prior to Mania, or if you ranked something above it. I think we had a very similar ranking. I think we only had 2 switched, but what we're doing, we're gonna break down by the era, which there's 3 eras. Let's be real. There's 3 eras to talk about. We did Attitude Era. Now we're gonna do Ruthless Aggression. Ruthless Aggression Era lasted 10 years. There's 2 parts to it though, and we're gonna break that down. But Ruthless Aggression lasted 10 years, meaning there's 10 matches to chat about and rank. But Ruthless Aggression was in 2 parts. There's the first half of Ruthless Aggression, and then there's the PG era Ruthless Aggression. And we're gonna chat that. So I guess let's kick things off. We're gonna kick things off with the first main event prior to Mania. That was a part of the Ruthless Aggression Era. What kicks off the Ruthless Aggression Era? It is 2004. No Way Out. Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero. What were your thoughts on this match? In Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero, they have a solid match. The ending, some people wish it was kind of a more clean finish for Eddie, but I mean, whatever. We got a. What I loved about the ending was it really built up the matches. So prior to that, we just saw Kurt Angle win, basically the number 1 contendership to go and face the champion, whoever that may be. So we were either going to get Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar 2, or Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero. Brock Lesnar was obviously about to leave the company, and so we got this whole the finish, which was Goldberg comes out, spears Lesnar, and basically helps Eddie Guerrero win the title at No Way Out. What were your thoughts on this match?
Well, before the ending, I have to say that the match was pretty boring, mainly because the audience was not heavily invested in the match, Many of the spots, the audience did not react to it. It didn't take until Goldberg's interference to finally get the audience to react, and then finally the finish came about, and the crowd went crazy.
So you thought the match was boring?
Up until the finish, yeah.
See, I thought they had a decent match. I thought they sold stuff really well. They did. If I remember correctly, there was a lot of working holds. Yeah, I remember. I mean, it felt like a classic old school match where like a lot of working holds. Eddie Guerrero working on Brock Lesnar's leg. Brock Lesnar selling it rather well. That was the whole gimmick though, was that Eddie Guerrero was having trouble getting Brock leg around this thing, around the pole, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know." I just felt like it was a decent match. I mean, you had two of the best wrestlers of the time.
Well, don't get me wrong, it was good and all, but the crowd killed the match, and of course Brock Lesnar was big, and of course him being big, working a long match, he was blown up.
Oh, yeah, he was sweating, dude. The sweat was pouring off his face like a river. It looked like a damn river
So, yeah.
I'm like, oh my god.
And this happens every Brock Lesnar match, proving that Brock Lesnar is very strong and he's very intimidating. But as far as his cardio is concerned, even back in 2004, it sucked.
Next up, we have 2005 No Way Out. JBL versus Big Show in a barbed wire steel cage match. This match was weird for me because watching it, I guess Big Show was face, but he wrestles like a heel. You know, Big Show is a natural heel because he's a giant, you know, and he's aggressive, and he looked aggressive. He had a weird goatee, a weird mustache, and he looked weird. So he looked like a heel. He acted like a heel. And JBL was a heel. So this was a heel versus heel match inside a barbed wire steel cage. And once again, what I like about No Way Out is they kind of like No Way Out, and I'll get to it. The beginning of the main event show before Mania, it all perfectly set up WrestleMania. At some point, it fails. We'll get to those years in a moment. There comes a point where the No Way Out, it doesn't make sense anymore, or it turns into elimination. We'll talk about it, but at some point it stops making sense. At least in 2005, despite this match not making sense, heel versus heel, it was a solid setup and build up to JBL versus John Cena. A lot of the stuff, Eddie Guerrero telling John Cena, "Oh, you know, you're gonna main event Mania," even though he wasn't the actual main event, just in the top 3 final matches or whatever, which they consider the main event, which is stupid. But it was very bloody. JBL busted open. I thought they had a very creative finish. Big Show, he seemingly won the match, but prior to that, he chokeslams JBL through the ring, and then JBL, I guess, while the camera's on Big Show, JBL had crawled out from under the ring and wins. He secretly wins the match, and I thought that was super creative. And looking back at it, it was a really fun ending, and it was really bloody. It's just it didn't make sense because, like I said, heel versus heel. And once again, maybe it was the crowd reaction. They seen it was heel versus heel, and the crowd reaction wasn't that good, and the atmosphere was very poor for that match. What are your thoughts?
The problem I had with the cage match is, number one, why was the cage door chain shut? I mean, that was not a good way to end the match. I mean, Big Show had to spend a couple of minutes taking the chain off of that cage door, and then gingerly took his time down the steps, making him look like a fool in the process.
Yeah.
So if you did not have the chain on the door to begin with, Big Show could have won the match and didn't have to waste so much time getting out of the ring. But like you said, the match did not make sense to begin with, and the crowd sucked. But the finish may have been all right, but the chain on the door killed the match.
Yeah, I thought it was a creative finish. The whole, usually you have to climb over the top, and you know what's funny? We've seen in the past, people under the ring and people getting drugged under the ring, and so I just thought it was a creative finish that they actually had somebody crawl under the ring and win. I thought that was it was kind of ingenious. Ingenious finish, just wrong match to use it. You know what I mean? I wish it would have been a better match to put that idea to work. Next up, 2006. This is a Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker. This started off super slow, but it picks up, and it's probably the best match we're going to talk about in this entire series. Because it was just really good. It does end in a kind of like a roll up finish. It doesn't have like a definite finish, but I like how it actually has a finish. A lot of these matches have interference in them. Almost every match on the card we've talked about has had some sort of interference or botch. Kurt Angle vs. Taker 2006 did not have any interference, didn't have a botch because they saved the interference for a rematch because Undertaker thought he won with a submission. He didn't. I guess Undertaker. The whole gimmick of the match was that Undertaker didn't realize he was being pinned, and that's why he lost. Because he thought, he had the submission hold locked in. Kurt Angle rolled him up for the pin, and Undertaker didn't realize he was being pinned, and so that was the whole thing. So they had a rematch later on, which then led to Mark Henry interfering and causing Mark Henry versus Taker at Mania. But for this match, no interference, solid wrestling, solid back and forth, and it was fun. The finish left both people looking really strong going into their Mania matches. What were your thoughts on Kurt Angle versus Undertaker 2006?
I thought that the build to the match was amazing, and when I saw the match, there were some slow spots in the match, but it was an epic build-up going into the climax of the match.
Yeah.
And like you said, this finish was actually a replica of what they did on SmackDown, but it was the other way around.
Exactly.
And that was what made the match on SmackDown very memorable back in 2004, I think.
Yeah, their original match, yeah.
I think it was back in 2004 when they had that match. It was an epic match. So they decided to do it again, but this time on a grander level, to a point where the crowd was eating everything up. The crowd was heavily invested in the match, and of course, Kurt Angle won by pinfall.
Kurt Angle's won the majority of the matches against Taker. Has Kurt Angle lost to Taker?
I have no idea, but
I don't think.
But every time Kurt Angle wrestled The Undertaker, they had classic matches.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about it over in the Survivor Series breakdown. Remember, we were talking about Survivor Series matches of The Undertaker and Kurt Angle versus Taker. I think we ranked the best match, or maybe second best match, but still, it was one of the best matches of his career. So Kurt Angle versus Taker, man, they put on a solid show. And it showed, and you're right. The build-up, because the whole build-up was Kurt Angle beat Mark Henry at Royal Rumble. Undertaker comes out and he lightning bolt strikes the ring, and the ring collapses, and he's like, "Oh, so scary!" Undertaker returned and challenges Kurt Angle for the championship. So I thought that was really cool. 2007, Batista and Undertaker versus John Cena and Shawn Michaels. Okay, so I'm glad that I'm rewatching all these, because this is the whole thing. I'm rewatching every single of these matches because I want to see how the matches look with fresh eyes, without knowing the build-up. Like, can these matches hold up for rewatchability? Going into this match, Batista, Undertaker versus John Cena and Shawn Michaels, I remember this time because I was deep into watching wrestling around 2006. Actually 2004 to 2010 was my peak of watching wrestling all the time, keeping up to date with everything. I remember 2007, and people hated the idea of this match. They didn't like this match. This match was shat on. I'm gonna say that I actually look watching it back, I liked it, and actually it made me really want a Undertaker versus John Cena match. I thought they were working really well together, and it made me wish that they would have gotten a feud at the height of here, like 2007, 2008 feud. Taker versus John Cena would have been amazing. Would have been awesome. They were the top of their fucking careers. Well, I don't know. Maybe give John Cena an extra year. Let's do 2009. Let's do Taker versus Cena 2009. That would have been good. Because John Cena was still having to learn. Because we've seen him and Shawn Michaels go at Mania. And John Cena still probably could have used some work. But Batista turns on Taker. And then it becomes a super kick into an FU. So Shawn Michaels and John Cena worked well together to defeat the Undertaker. Which really helped the build-up to Taker versus Batista, which was the better match at Mania. So I really like the build up to those matches, and we got a little taste. We keep starting in 2007. We were getting these little tastes, these little samples of Taker versus Shawn Michaels, which we would see later in 2009. Was it? I can't remember the year that they finally faced off. I think it was 2009. But crazy stuff. What are your thoughts on this match?
I honestly don't remember that match.
You don't remember Batista and Undertaker versus John Cena and Shawn Michaels?
No?
Yeah, because people shat on it. That's why you don't remember, because it was people were mad that Taker got pinned by Cena, and so it kind of gets put under the bus. But I mean, it was a decent match, and it wasn't main event worthy, I would say. I'll admit that it probably wasn't main event worthy, but the concept and just some of the showings and some of the foreshadowing within the match was really good. I just wish it would have paid off with Taker and Cena later down the line, and it did not. So that's just sad about it. 2008. So 2008, this is the last match. 2008 is the last match in the first half of the Ruthless Aggression Era. Right, or part 1 of Ruthless Aggression. Part 2 is PG. This is the last non-PG match in Ruthless Aggression. Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Hardy versus Chris Jericho versus JBL versus Umaga in an Elimination Chamber match. We see quite possibly blood for the last time in a chamber match with with Shawn Michaels getting heavily busted open. This is probably one of my favorite chamber matches of the Ruthless Aggression Era, as far as the main event before main event, because used to Elimination Chamber was at Survivor Series, right? They were doing it at Survivor Series, and so as far as moving it to No Way Out and then eventually Elimination Chamber by itself as a pay-per-view, this is probably one of my favorite of the matches. Triple H obviously gets the win. Triple H being the king of Elimination Chamber, apparently. But Jeff Hardy puts on a really good showing. Jeff Hardy gets the pedigree on the chair. Really solid match. Really solid match. What are your thoughts?
I think it was a good build-up going into WrestleMania, Jeff Hardy in 2008 had an excellent year in general, because at some point he faced Triple H and Edge in a World Heavyweight Championship match, or was it WWE? I think it was a WWE Championship in 2008 with Triple H and Edge. But I think this match gave us an opportunity to see what potential Jeff Hardy had after the years of alcohol and drugs, that he was slowly making a comeback and trying to insert himself into the main event. But as far as the match itself, I mean, it was pretty good. I'm not going to say it was not very controversial. I mean, nothing can be as controversial as SummerSlam 2003 with the whole Goldberg thing,
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see how well Jeff Hardy started doing in 2008, leading up to the months that goes into the match with Triple H and Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Wait, was Triple H versus Edge?
Triple H versus Edge. What are you talking about, at Mania?
Yeah, what was the Mania match that this was building up to? I can't remember.
I think it was Edge versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 24 for the World Heavyweight Championship.
2008?
Yeah, that's WrestleMania 24, I think.
That was Edge versus
Undertaker.
But who was Triple H facing? Was that Batista or Randy Orton?
It may have been Randy Orton. I just can't remember that
Damn,
one.
I know. It's fucking hard.
But I know that 2008, Triple H and Edge faced Jeff Hardy in a triple threat for the championship, and Jeff Hardy won that.
There comes a point where these manias in No Way Out start to blend together. I'll be honest with you. I've had to Google many a time, because like I said, there comes a point where the build-ups don't make sense anymore. And we'll get to that probably at some point. I don't know if I'll pick it out, but there comes a point where the build-ups don't make any fucking sense, and that the WrestleMania card does not translate well when you're looking at the pay-per-view right before Mania. It makes zero sense. But anyways, moving on to 2009. John Cena versus Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho versus Kane versus Mike Knox versus Edge, an Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship. 2009, I'll give them credit for being at least the most unpredictable chamber. 2009 had the most unpredictable Elimination Chamber event. We saw in the earlier in that night, Edge was the first person eliminated in the SmackDown Elimination Chamber match, meaning that somebody new was going to be champion. That was it's so crazy to see. Whenever the champion's the first one to be pinned, and oh my God, there's going to be a new champion no matter what. That's always intriguing. And then the main event comes around, and Edge only lost to a roll-up, so he's not hurt or nothing. He hasn't been in a match. He's not even really been in the match, right? So he's completely fresh. Edge attacks and Katerchos Kofi Kingston at the start of the match and enters a pod. So now Edge has inserted himself into the Raw Elimination Chamber match. We see Kane get I hate Kane's elimination, but at least it takes a team up to eliminate him. But I hate when Kane gets eliminated first because he's the fucking big red monster. I hate when they eliminate monsters so quick. And I also think that Mike Knox is worthless in this match. I don't know why he's in it. I know they were trying to build Mike Knox at the time, but he really wasn't that good of a worker, and he wasn't that intimidating. I feel like they could have easily switched Mike Knox and Kane's spot at least. But that's just my opinion. We see John Cena takes 3 finishers, I think. He takes a 619 from Rey, he takes a codebreaker from Chris Jericho, and then takes a spear from Edge. And John Cena gets pinned, and Edge's face becomes a meme. The Edge makes a face. It's literally a meme everywhere. And so we got Edge, Chris Jericho, and Rey Mysterio for the final 3. One of them will be the new Raw champion. And crazy enough, so it's so crazy. Basically, Edge loses the SmackDown title, jumps into the Raw chamber, and Edge ends up winning the Raw title, transferring him over to Raw. I think it was a very creative show. This is one of the most creative things. They didn't have that much spots in this, but I felt the creative ending was good enough to make it a really solid chamber match.
Yeah, I think Edge inserting himself into that Raw Elimination Chamber match got the crowd's interest piqued. And of course, you had great in-ring psychology with Kane and Edge and Mysterio.
Yeah.
Jericho was obviously a good worker in there. But Mike Knox, he was the most pointless out of all of them. And of course, John Cena, he was already starting to get booed out of the building, no matter where he went. So there had to come a time when a new champion was about. And even though Edge was the rated R superstar, it was the right time for WWE to pull the trigger and put the belt on Edge.
I'm trying to make sure that what I'm looking at is right. Moving on to 2010. 2010 Elimination Chamber match. The Undertaker is champion. It's Undertaker versus Rey Mysterio versus John Morrison versus R-Truth versus Chris Jericho versus CM Punk. I'm gonna be straightforward. So the biggest takeaway from this match was that Undertaker caught on fire, and then Chris Jericho wins after Shawn Michaels comes up through the grating of the Elimination Chamber and super kicks Undertaker. The 2010 Elimination Chamber. Just, there was those 2 moments, and you don't even know. Undertaker has to tell a story about it. But besides Shawn Michaels helping Chris Jericho win, this may be the worst chamber match of history. I mean, Undertaker was burnt, and he had a little fire coming out, but he was the last person to enter. He had a fun little he had a fun rush of energy, fighting Chris Jericho. But ultimately, the whole build-up to Taker coming out was bad. It was boring. Everything about this match was really, literally boring as hell. Probably the most boring Elimination Chamber I've ever seen until the ending with Shawn Michaels. It's really bad. What are your thoughts on this chamber? Do you agree?
The only thing I can remember about the Elimination Chamber from 2010 was Undertaker getting burned, but I don't remember the match.
Yeah, as I'm saying, like it's a really boring match, and the only thing that happened was, I think this was the build up to Shawn versus Taker 2. And so Shawn came out from the Great, super kick Taker, and then Chris Jericho covered for the win, becoming the champion, leading to Chris Jericho versus CM Punk for the title, I think. I think that's what the title match was. But yeah, so probably the worst chamber match. And it sucks to say, but it's true. Next up, we have the 2011 Elimination Chamber. John Cena versus Randy Orton versus John Morrison versus R-Truth versus CM Punk versus King Sheamus. 2011 had the fun spot with CM Punk being CM Punk, I think, gets caught. Right? He gets caught in the cell, and he gets eliminated super early because his cell door malfunctioned. And then someone comes out. Or no, was this the anonymous GM? I think the anonymous GM was like, because of a messed up door, CM Punk was unfairly eliminated. And so CM Punk is reinstated into the match. So CM Punk was eliminated, but then the anonymous Raw GM was like, oh no, it was a faulty door, so he's re-entered into the match. So CM Punk got to re-enter the match. I think he ultimately got eliminated by Randy Orton. John Cena. No, he did not. CM Punk eliminated Randy Orton. And then John Cena finally won after he FU'd CM Punk onto the Great. And he pinned CM Punk to win. What are your thoughts on the 2011 Elimination Chamber?
Well, like you said, when John Cena pinned CM Punk, that was the beginning of something special down the line in 2011, with Money in the Bank in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
So this was the seedling this was the seed that was being planted for an epic feud between Cena and Punk. It wasn't there just yet because I think in 2011.
Well, CM Punk was he was still a core member at this time. What was it called?
Nexus.
No, I think it was.
No, he was Nexus, and Wade Barrett was with the core.
Yeah, I think CM Punk takes it over. He had a core thing, or was that a new Nexus?
It was a new Nexus, I think.
Oh, okay, maybe it was new Nexus. I really thought it was a C for core. I thought he took it over.
Nonetheless, that ending for the chamber was the seed that was being planted for the epic feud. But Cena was facing The Miz at WrestleMania that year. And it was an abysmal main event at WrestleMania. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, when we get to Mania. But right now we're still doing the main event before Mania.
I mean, the match wasn't too bad. At the ending, it was just seeds being planted for that feud.
At the end of the day, I mean, there's something to take away is that whenever they took away the attitude part, whenever they went PG with Chamber, I mean, the Chamber just isn't what it used to be. It isn't as great as it used to be. I mean, they're trying. They find creative spots nowadays. Especially, I mean, maybe we'll talk about it another time. But they find creative spots now. But it just doesn't matter. I mean, there's just it's just not as brutal. It doesn't feel as cool.
When you take away blood in any cage match, whether it's Elimination Chamber, Steel Cage, or Hell in a Cell. The psychology's not there.
Exactly. Psychology's broken. And now they've even taken away the grading. It's all a platform now instead of grading. Remember? Yeah, that's why all the
Once again, that was psychology at its finest.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
When you alter the features of a cage, whether it's Elimination Chamber or something else, you're taking away the psychology of the match.
Yes, I completely agree. Moving on, we just talked about 2011. We have 2 more matches in the Ruthless Aggression Era. 2012 Elimination Chamber, John Cena versus Kane in an ambulance match. 2 takeaways from this. A, John Cena should have went heel. B, the only spot in this that is worth talking about is the John Cena FUing Kane off the ambulance. Other than that, this is probably the worst ambulance match I've ever seen. And it sucks. I'm a huge Kane fan. And it's not really Kane's fault. I think it's just the direction of the match and the fact that I just feel like they took this in a weird direction. I think Kane is just fresh off. Kane is fresh off of being corporate Kane, and so he's kind of a joke. And it's kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that he's a joke at this point, and he's trying to bring it back or whatever. He has the whole black mask. He comes in and bring the hate, and we're gonna rise the hate, and let's make John Cena heel. It was the whole gimmick of this match and the whole gimmick of the feud for a month. This is a month-long feud that was only built up to show that John Cena will never turn heel. Blah 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 blah. That was the whole, and it was him building up to facing The Rock. Like, to beat The Rock, Cena, you have to be heel. You have to take that extra step. You are not as good as The Rock. To beat The Rock in y'all's first ever encounter, you have to turn heel, and Kane is going to bring that out of you. And the whole gimmick was like, Kane didn't bring it out of him, and then John Cena obviously goes on and loses against The Rock. The match is pointless. The match was boring, except for, like I said, the one spot. The FU off the ambulance was cool, but that's it. That's sadly it. I wish they would have done something. I wish this match would have resembled Kane versus Shane McMahon at a Survivor Series, but it does not. It does not. What are your thoughts on this match and build up?
This was too tame to be an ambulance match. I mean, even Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in their ambulance match was much better than this piece of crap match. But Shane versus Kane in 2003 Survivor Series, how do you top that one? That was the most violent ambulance match I've ever seen. But at least they could have allowed the level of violence to get up a little bit to where John Cena is bleeding. It would have called for it because that would have added to the psychology of the match. That would have made the match interesting. Yeah. But there was no blood.
No blood.
And it was just too tame to watch.
Too tame to watch. Oh, my God. Last up, what I consider... You know what's crazy? The Rock was at the end of the Attitude Era, and The Rock ended the Attitude Era, and The Rock ended Ruthless Aggression. It's just so crazy to think to me, Ed Ray, that The Rock was a part of 2 major events, 2 major transitions in wrestling. In 2003, The Rock, he wrestled Hulk Hogan at the No Way Out. We talked about that. But that Mania, he wrestled... Who'd he wrestle? Stone Cold for the very last time, ending the Attitude Era. So we end the Attitude Era in 2003. The main event was Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle, effectively starting the Ruthless Aggression Era. And we talked about, Brock Lesnar versus Eddie 20 and WrestleMania 20 and stuff like that. But I mean, we go on. The Rock's gone. He comes back. Who was the up and comer? Who was the guy that became the face of Ruthless Aggression? John Cena. And so we see him come back and face John Cena in 2 matches back to back. Effectively, that second match effectively ended the Ruthless Aggression Era. And it kind of gave way to the next era in wrestling. Before that, so John Cena versus Kane happens. The Rock, he goes on to face The Rock. He loses The Rock. So now we got to build up to John Cena versus Rock 2.0. And The Rock, he wants this time to be special. And so The Rock wants to win the title. And that way, there's a title involved in The Rock versus John Cena. We see The Rock versus CM Punk in the Royal Rumble 2013. Well, now it's time for CM Punk for his rematch clause, and so here we are. 2013 Elimination Chamber, The Rock versus CM Punk 2. It's slightly different than the first time. So the first time, I think The Rock versus CM Punk 2, psychologically, better than the first. The first one, The Rock had an upper hand, but he mostly did right hand about 90% of the match. The biggest difference, and at first I didn't like The Rock versus CM Punk 2. Like, even rewatching it, I was like, this is not that good. But then there comes a point where that psychology switches on you, and you're like, oh, this is really good. This was a good match. Like, The Rock doesn't do much. Then again, he's come back, and a lot of these legends, when they come back, they're not doing too much stuff. They're basically doing their signature moves. But I mean, this is like a 30-minute match. It's a 30-minute match, and The Rock is just, he hits a clothesline here and there, but The Rock's kind of just taking punishment. So I mean, the Rock's just he's on the defensive, and CM Punk is working the match, and there comes a point where it gets crazy, where like all the false finishes and stuff. It's like, this shit's getting nuts. Like, The Rock's selling, like the CM Punk is spitting in The Rock's face, and it's like real spit, and it's gross, and The Rock's pissed, and like the psychology in this match is off the chain, and it's sad that at the time we kind of dismissed it, and because we all knew that this was all just kind of like, we knew The Rock was gonna win. It wasn't going to be a surprise, but looking back at it with fresh eyes, the match itself, they did really well in the match. I think it's just that outside psychology, right? It's that internet psychology. I think the internet is single-handedly ruining wrestling. Now that I think about rewatching some of these matches, the internet has ruined wrestling because I mean, if you would have watched this and not known that, The Rock and John Cena 2 is 100% planned, they want to use the title, then this would have been fucking crazy. This match would have been insane. And honestly, it's a monumental match. You have CM Punk, who is arguably the biggest star in the second half of Ruthless Aggression, and The Rock, the biggest star in the second half of Attitude Era. Because let's be real, Stone Cold was control of the first half of Attitude Era, and then The Rock comes, and he controls the second half, and he ends the Attitude Era. Then he comes in, faces John Cena, ends Ruthless Aggression. But The Rock, CM Punk, that's a big match on paper. CM Punk's a huge star now, second half of Ruthless Aggression, and The Rock is obviously The Rock. So I think Rock CM Punk too is underappreciated. What are your thoughts?
Oh, it wasn't too bad of a match. I mean, their first match was pretty good. But I just thought that they could have done some sort of a draw finish to justify a triple threat with The Rock, CM Punk, and John Cena. That would have made the WrestleMania match unpredictable. It would have made it a lot more enjoyable to watch.
What's CM Punk go on to do? Face Taker?
Yeah, I think it was Undertaker.
Yeah, he did. It was.
And it was a massive burial of CM Punk in that match.
I don't know. Well, yeah. Well, CM Punk felt like they could have built up to it, but it ended up coming off as just another victim for Taker. So that's the only thing that really sucked about it. But yeah. So yeah, The Rock versus CM Punk, and that's it. That was the Ruthless Aggression Era, the last main event before Mania, in Ruthless Aggression, before we get on to Reality Era, was The Rock versus CM Punk. So here we go. Let's rank these matches. Let's rank the Ruthless Aggression. I've put them in bold. So I'll start with the bottom. I'll start with the worst match of Ruthless Aggression. The worst match of the Ruthless Aggression main event before Mania matches is the 2010 Elimination Chamber. Let's face it. I'm a huge Undertaker fan. You know, whatever. The finish was fine because of the, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels 2, which was a classic. Both those all those matches are classic. Him and Shawn Michaels. The whole match, though, is super boring. It's probably the worst chamber match in history. It's worse than any chamber match you can say off the top of your head. It's worse. This is the worst chamber match ever. Super boring. Nothing happens. It sucks. Number 2. Number 9. 9? Yeah, there's 10 matches. Number 9. Kane versus John Cena in an ambulance match. This has one moment. Other than that, this is the worst ambulance match. And they have one moment. And John Cena should have turned heel. And he didn't. What a waste. It's a waste of time to watch. Number 8. JBL versus Big Show, barbed wire, steel cage. This match was pointless. It's heel versus heel. There's really no story in it. And I like blood. The blood was cool, which is why it's actually so high on my regular list, is all the blood and the creative finish. But for the Ruthless Aggression, it wasn't that good at all. So, that's number 8. Number 7, 2009 Elimination Chamber. John Cena, Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, Kane, Mike Knox, Edge. Not as boring as 2010 Elimination Chamber, but the only redeeming quality of this match was the mystery of who would be champion, which was ultimately Edge. Other than that, Mike Knox was worthless. Kane gets eliminated too quick. And, Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho have been in this spot in other chamber matches. And it was like the same thing over and over again, despite the creative, what's going to happen finish. Number 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 6, Batista and Undertaker versus John Cena and Shawn Michaels. This is a solid tag team match that probably could have been used on Raw, but it was still solid, and it gave you the imagination of, man, what about John Cena versus Taker in this era? What about Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels in the future? Oh man, Batista Undertaker Mania. What a good build up. So this was a Raw match that they happened to put on a pay-per-view. But it was still more entertaining thanks to the talent involved than some of the prior matches. Number 5, 2011 Elimination Chamber. John Cena, Randy Orton, John Morrison, Raw Truth, CM Punk, and King Sheamus. This was a really fun chamber match. The CM Punk getting trapped was a creative spot, and then him being re-entered into the match. John Cena winning by pinning CM Punk, and then it also leads to this huge feud between John Cena and CM Punk, which is probably one of the best feuds of the Ruthless Aggression Era, Part 2 of the second half of Ruthless Aggression, basically after 2010. So, number 4, The Rock versus CM Punk 2. I think the first half is kind of boring, but then when you realize the actual psychology that's being put into the match, and you realize that this is actually a throwback to classic Attitude Era matches, just in a PG era. And so I think it's a solid match. Number 3, 2008 Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Hardy versus Chris Jericho versus JBL versus Umaga in the Elimination Chamber. This is the last chamber to feature blood. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? Actually, the 2009 chamber, I believe, did have blood, but Chris Jericho had to walk over to the corner and had to fucking put tape or something on his face. They wiped the blood off because Chris Jericho, his cheek was all bloodied and busted open. But then, like 10 seconds later, it was gone because it was PG now, and they had to take the blood away. It was like, what annoyance. Anyways, 2008, the last chamber to feature blood heavily. And then I love the finish. I love how they made Jeff Hardy look really strong, kicking out of a pedigree, and Triple H having a pedigree Jeff Hardy onto a chair for the win. I really enjoyed this match. Number 2, Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero. Despite the fan reactions not being so strong, this is a solid match. There's no gimmick in this. This is a match. Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero, two of the most talented people, two of the biggest stars in the Ruthless Aggression Era. And really, of all time, probably. Two of the biggest stars of all time. Top 10 stars of this, post Hulk Hogan era, post Randy Savage era. These two guys are huge. And it's cool to look back on that they had this such a good match, despite the fan reaction not being so positive. And then you had a cool pop with Goldberg. So, you had this throwback to WCW days and this whole build-up to Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg and Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle. And so it's up there for me. It really is. It's up there. It's a classic match, and it's just sad that the audience at the time was so jaded thanks to the internet for spoiling the fact that Brock Lesnar and Goldberg were leaving. So... Jaded fans, but solid match. Number 1, the best match was Kurt Angle versus Undertaker. Who would have seen that coming? Ed Ray, what are your thoughts on my choices and what are your picks?
Those were solid choices of yours.
Okay, so you agree with everything I said?
Yeah, I mean, how can I argue your points on this? I mean, number 1 is obviously right. Number 2 is obviously right.
Okay.
And all the others, I mean, either I have not seen them or I don't care.
I understand. And we'll talk about the full list because Ed Ray is obviously looking at my full list as well. I'm making a list of the entirety of the main events. So right now we're breaking it down in sections, but at the finale of this, we're gonna go through and list every main event in order and discuss them. As far as the ranking, not the matches themselves. We'll just talk about the ranking as a finale for them. Probably around Fastlane 2021. Because Fastlane will obviously be added to this list because it'll be the main event before Mania. So, cool stuff, fun stuff. Woo! So that's our list for Ruthless Aggression. Let's move on to the second half of this episode. Elimination Chamber 2021 predictions! You ready to predict the 2021 Elimination Chamber matches?
Oh yeah, let's do this.
For those that are listening, the 2021 Elimination Chamber takes place February 21st. So if you're listening to this after February 21st, the Chamber match has already happened. Check back for our results reaction. But let's look at the match card that they have so far. Do you want to look at predicted matches or just the confirmed matches?
Let's try the confirmed matches.
All right, we're just going to do confirmed matches, not the predicted matches. First off, we got the United States Championship match. Bobby Lashley versus Keith Lee versus Riddle.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one.
So basically, they've added Keith Lee to the mix, which makes me think Riddle's going to win. I think Keith Lee does the what's his finisher called? I think it's whatever that Dragon Ball Z move is. Kamehameha bomb. I don't know. Power bomb. Anyway, Keith Lee does his power bomb to Bob Lashley, and Riddle hits Keith Lee and then pins Lashley. I think is the finish. I think Lashley's gonna lose the title here, but I think he'll lose it in a way that keeps him strong. You know what I mean? Like he won't lose to the guy that did the move to him. If that makes sense. Or he gets teamed up against. I I think Bobby Lashley might lose only because I think they want to build Bobby Lashley to the main title run for 2021. I think they're going to they got to find a way to take the U.S. title off of him, but keep him strong. Also, maybe Riddle pins Keith Lee. Maybe Bobby Lashley doesn't even get pinned. But I think Bobby Lashley will lose the title to go on and face whoever the champion is for Raw or SmackDown if he gets traded, so drafted. Bobby Lashley versus Edge confirmed. Raw Women's Championship. Oh, and wait, what are your thoughts on this match? What do you pick?
I have to say, I'm going to have to say Riddle wins.
Okay.
But I'm not so sure about that. I mean, Bobby Lashley's been a very good United States champion, so it's going to be hard.
No, he is. He has been. Do you think the mindset of the fact that they want him to be that this man's high on him? So do you think that he's high on him to only the extent of U.S. champion, or do you think he's high on him enough to put him in the main event scene?
That remains to be seen, but I'm going to say Riddle wins.
Okay, so you say Riddle wins. Asuka versus Lacey Evans for the Raw Women's Wait!
Obviously, this is not updated.
This ain't updated.
Because it's going to be Asuka versus Charlotte, I think. Because what happened was, and you're not going to believe this, folks, but Lacey Evans is pregnant.
With Ric Flair's baby.
And she won't be back for 9 months.
So wait. Let's see if this is updated. 2021 Elimination Chamber matches. Let's see what's going on. It's still saying it.
My question is, why hasn't it been changed?
Is it fake? 1 day ago. What is this crap? Look at this. Oh, that's a chamber. I need the matches, man. I need the matches. We may have to skip that one because I think it's fake. All right, we're skipping that one. Fake. Unless if these aren't updated, then I'll be pissed off. Let's see. Okay, these are updated. So we'll start off with the Raw Elimination Chamber match. For the WWE Championship, we have Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton versus AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus versus Kofi Kingston, who just replaced The Miz on Raw. Who's getting... You know what? I don't think Kofi Kingston's going to be in this match. Bet. Who do you think is going to replace Kofi Kingston? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a M. Mufasa Ali!
You sure about that?
Dude, that's the whole gimmick. That's the whole feud. Mufasa Ali was just talking about how Kofi Kingston only got his Kofi Mania because he stole Mufasa Ali's chamber spot.
Yeah, but did Kingston injure Ali in that match last year or a couple of years ago? Who knows?
No, I know, but it's a weird build up because Ali is heel. So I bet you that Ali pulls an Edge and beats up Kofi Kingston before the match and takes the spot. Or Kofi Kingston is injured backstage and Mustafa Ali takes the spot. I think Mustafa Ali is going to be in the chamber. I really do think so. I think he will replace Kofi Kingston. I think it's a build up to their feud. I think it's going to be obviously. I think it's going to be New Day versus Retribution at Mania is what they're building to, and I think that's a way to do it. But who's going to win this match? Well, let's look at our contenders. I don't think Kofi Kingston is going to win. Obviously, I think he's not even going to be in the match. I think he's going to be replaced. Sheamus. What are the odds on Sheamus winning the chamber match?
Not likely.
Not likely? He's actually out of all these people, he might be the most likely.
He'll probably be eliminated second to last.
Then we have Jeff Hardy.
No.
AJ Styles. What if Omos gets involved?
Styles may lose by interference.
How would he lose by interference?
You say Almost is going to get involved, right?
Maybe to help AJ. You think he's going to be hurt AJ?
That's a possibility. We'll have to see.
He turns on Randy Orton. Obviously, you know what's funny? A lot of these people, everybody except Sheamus, has feuds outside, and so they all can have interference. But Randy Orton, especially, is going to have. Randy Orton's going to lose because of interference from the Fiend. 100% positive. Shit, I don't know. Ed Ray, I guess it's time to start kind of like trying to guess what they're going to do. Do you think they're going to do Drew McIntyre versus Shane McMahon for Mania?
If so, then that means that Drew McIntyre would have to lose this match.
No, but I mean, no, Drew McIntyre versus Shane McMahon for the title.
No, because we don't want Shane to win.
Exactly.
Therefore, Drew McIntyre needs to lose this match before he can face Shane McMahon.
Because you know Shane McMahon did that whole we need a main eventer for Mania. We need a star.
Yeah, but if Randy Orton does not defeat Drew McIntyre, then his feud with the Fiend ain't going to culminate very well at WrestleMania.
What are you trying to say to me? Who's winning this match?
Randy Orton.
You think Randy Orton's winning?
Well, he has to win in order to make the match with the Fiend more intense going into WrestleMania.
They don't give a shit about that. They think it's intense already with the psychological or whatever.
But if you add the title in, it's going to be more meaningful, especially if the Fiend wins.
Do you think they're going to put Drew McIntyre at Mania without a title?
If it means so much to wrestle Shane McMahon, yeah, because we don't want Shane McMahon versus Drew McIntyre for the world title at WrestleMania.
But it's an okay match on card, right?
On card, yeah, but as far as how to make a championship match with somebody that is memorable for his stupid bumps.
No, he's the greatest wrestler in the world. Remember, he won the greatest wrestler matches.
He doesn't know how to work. All he does is crazy spots.
Exactly.
And that's not going to help. That's not going to help against Drew McIntyre in this situation. So why should it be Drew McIntyre versus Shane McMahon when Randy Orton versus The Fiend is a hotter feud?
I think Sheamus wins, and I think we get Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus versus Jinder Mahal at Mania.
Oh, that'd be a nightmare.
What, a triple threat?
Especially with Jinder Mahal.
Why?
Because the guy almost bankrupted WWE as a champion.
Oh, whatever. He got India buys. What about what's Heath Slater doing? Maybe we could get a fatal four-way. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Heath Slater.
Heath Slater, I think, was an Impact last time I checked.
Yeah, but I don't think he signed a contract. I think he's just doing special appearances. So he could, I think he can easily come back to WWE or something. I really wish it was Carlito doing something with Drew McIntyre, but apparently Carlito was a 1 week stint, and he might be done with the company again. So that sucks. So basically, what you're telling me is that the WWE Championship match is so far the most unpredictable match on this card.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is unpredictable.
Because I think Randy Orton's going to win the title.
Why?
Like I said, it's got to add to the story of Randy Orton versus The Fiend at WrestleMania.
Or if Randy Orton wins the title, will Edge challenge Randy Orton for the championship?
No, it's got to be Edge versus Roman.
You said last week that you did not think Roman versus Edge was going to do it.
But unfortunately, it's going to happen. Because I actually saw some things on SmackDown that I didn't like, but it's going to happen.
Like what? What'd you see?
Just a bunch of stupid stuff involving Roman and Edge.
Oh, where he was talking shit about Edge?
Yeah. So it's obvious they're going to have that match whether we like it or not.
I don't know. You know what's crazy? I think, you know what's fun, though? But what's fun is that at least is somewhat unpredictable. Because the only good thing about WWE right now planning WrestleMania 1 week before WrestleMania is that we don't know what's going to happen because neither do they. Neither do they.
It's because Vince McMahon never makes up his mind on what he wants.
So you're saying Randy Orton is going to win the Chamber match?
Yeah, because, let's face it, Drew McIntyre's championship run has been crap as of late. And, of course, we do not want Drew McIntyre versus Shane McMahon at WrestleMania.
What are we going to get at Mania? Drew versus Sheamus in a singles?
Well, there's got to be something on the line. But if Randy Orton wins, then what's going to be on the line? What are they going to fight for?
I think Drew... You know what sucks about this? Is that there's another pay-per-view. That's the one thing that sucks about this Chamber pay-per-view is that we still have Fastlane. What are they going to do? Like this, they are stacking the Chamber. The Elimination Chamber should be the final pay-per-view before Mania. Okay. Whenever they insert the extra stuff, it's like, what are they doing? Like, what matches are there going to be? Who are they going to face? Like, okay, if Randy Orton wins the title, what's his Fastlane match? Drew? Exactly. You got to think that way now. You can't just say it's straight to Mania because there's a pay-per-view in the middle of this. So I mean, if Drew wins, maybe him versus Shane McMahon is Fastlane and not Mania. Not Mania.
And then, if that happens, then Drew, unfortunately, is going to be at WrestleMania walking in as champion.
But then who's facing him, I wonder? Sheamus, I guess. I don't know. AJ Styles. Who's AJ Styles feuding with right now?
Wish I could tell you.
Damn. I just don't know. That's
the good and bad of unpredictable matches.
This is kind of crazy because it could go a bad way, could go a good way. I'm 50-50. I think Drew McIntyre, Sheamus. I don't think they built AJ Styles enough this year. I think AJ Styles has taken a back seat ever since the match with Taker. They teamed up with Omos, but how much was Omos going to be a factor in the Chamber match? And then the biggest question is, what do they have planned for AJ Styles at Mania? Technically he's a big name in this list. Sheamus, what do they have planned for Sheamus? I mean, Sheamus and Drew obviously are in this thrown together feud. We kind of seen it coming because Sheamus has obviously been a heel ever since he lost the world title, SmackDown, his SmackDown world title run. He's been a heel ever since filming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then Kofi Kingston is so random. I think Mufasa Ali is the first person eliminated. Because I don't think Kofi Kingston's in this match. I think Mufasa Ali plays Kofi Kingston. I think he ironically gets beaten first. Just as an insult to injury. Oh shit! You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna say Drew McIntyre wins the Chamber match. I think he pins Sheamus. I think they did the whole tease on Raw with Sheamus pinning Drew. Which means Sheamus is the last man to enter the match. And I think that's all swerve, and Drew McIntyre will retain! Booyah! Moving on. Now this one is even more crazy. The SmackDown Elimination Chamber match. King Corbin versus Kevin Owens versus Cesaro versus Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn versus Jey Uso. Now, the biggest takeaway from this match before we predict it, the winner has to immediately, is it immediately or just later on? That'd be interesting if it's later on. But basically, the winner of this match will face Roman Reigns later for the title. So, if it's directly after, You know, if maybe this is the first chamber match, and then we get a series of matches, and then Roman Reigns versus the winner for the title happens, that'd be interesting as well. Someone fresh, and a nice little build up for drama. So yeah, I guess who's it gonna be? King Corbin, Kevin Owens, Cesaro, Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn, or Jey Uso to win the chamber match?
You're not going to like this, but I'm going to have to say Kevin Owens again.
Again? I'm pretty much sick of these matches with Kevin Owens, to be honest. I'm not a Kevin Owens fan. I think I'm kind of like offended they've given him the stunner.
I'm offended that they made him a babyface.
Kevin Owens is like a pretty version of Mick Foley, which doesn't work. Mick Foley only works because you have how grungy and gross Mick Foley looks, and Mr. Socko, and putting a wiener sock on his hand and shoving it in people's mouths. That's what works about Mick Foley. A lot of people say, "Oh, Kevin Owens is like Mick Foley." Yeah, but Kevin Owens looks like a fucking Canadian Mick Foley. So fuck Kevin Owens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just because Kevin Owens takes bumps doesn't make him any better than Mick Foley did. Because Mick Foley had the psychology. He knew how to.
That's what it is. You know,
Not only did he have the psychology, he had the ability to captivate audiences with his gimmick, and of course he could work if he wanted to. Kevin Owens, all he does is just bump and talk.
Visually, Kevin Owens, is really bad. Visually, they need to do something with his appearance. I don't know if it's just like Kevin Owens just saying, no, I'm not going to change my appearance. But Kevin Owens, he needs a drastic change to be believable, because right now he just isn't.
Yeah, he needs to bulk up.
I don't know. Like I said, like they made him grungy or something. They made him more like, if they give him like a Mankind mask or something, I don't know, because I can see what they're saying. Kevin Owens, Mankind, I can see the comparison. The difference is that what you're saying, the psychology of looking at Kevin Owens, not the same as looking at a Mick Foley. You know, Mick Foley, he had longer hair. He's like, hey, missing fucking teeth because he's badass. Kevin Owens has like I shaved my beard perfect. Oh, I have this kind of like a faux hawk. I'm so Canadian. I'm Kevin Owens. Yeah. I'm Frenchy. I'm a French fry. You can eat me. Mick Foley is like a fucking ground up beef on the ground. He's eating sand. Kevin Owens is pretty. Well, he's a pretty boy, is what Undertaker was saying. All these fucking new people, they're doing cool bumps. They're athletic or whatever, but they're fucking look pretty. They're not real. They're not real people. They're fake ass fucking people. Kevin Owens gets my blood boiling, because I just feel like there's something missing with him. They just need to change something about him to make him what they're trying to be, but he's just so fucking fake. I think it'd be nice to see Cesaro win, but Cesaro's on the cuff heel, so I don't know.
Yeah, and Cesaro's getting too old for the title picture anyway, with all the injuries that he's endured over the years.
Maybe we'll see Daniel Bryan win, and then obviously we'll get Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns.
Yeah, for Roman Reigns to win.
And then that would be a nice build-up.
It could be a nice retirement match for Daniel Bryan.
What if it's a nice build-up to Daniel Bryan? Because you got to think, whoever wins this match will probably get a rematch at Fastlane. I think Daniel Bryan is the best pick. I think Jey Uso makes it to the end. Oh shit, Jey Uso might win, and then he lays down.
We wouldn't want to see that match.
And that's what I'm saying. I think what if Jey Uso wins?
If Jey Uso wins, then the match is pointless.
Yeah, then he'll just lay down and take the pin from Roman.
I'm saying, as much as I don't like it, Kevin Owens is going to win.
That's heat. That's heat for Roman, because obviously Jey Uso just took he laid down for Roman. Sami Zayn. I think we're going to see a nice Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens throwback. That's interesting. King Corbin. Shit, King Corbin might be the first one eliminated. King Corbin's first one eliminated. Then King Corbin, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Jey Uso, and then it's going to come down to... No, Cesaro's going to pin Daniel Bryan to be a shocker. So maybe King Corbin, Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, and then Kevin Owens beats Jey. Fuck it, I agree with you. Kevin Owens wins. Fuck! I'm so mad. I'm so mad I painted that picture.
They need to get Kevin Owens off TV.
I'm so mad I painted... I sent him to fucking Raw. He don't need to be in this feud. He doesn't need this. Kevin Owens is better as a heel anyways. I hate him as a babyface. He's not believable. He doesn't have a his moveset isn't believable except for his fucking cannonball. He's not even fat enough. He needs to add some weight to him just to make the cannonball move realistic. He looks like someone that works at fucking Walmart. I hate to say it. But it's true. Stone Cold, you gave your finisher to a fucking Walmart employee, goddammit. I don't like that. And then obviously Roman Reigns beats whoever wins. So so frustrating. And it's not even the it's not even the last pay-per-view. We got this, and then we have to deal with Fastlane. Fastlane will be intriguing because Fastlane is unpredictable. Fastlane, like, what are they gonna do for Fastlane? Like right now, Elimination Chamber is kind of stacked with like, this is the build-up to Mania. This is it. But there's a pay-per-view in the middle. So I bet we're gonna get some weird matches for Fastlane. God damn it. It's so frustrating. Ed Ray, what are your thoughts on that entire scenario that we painted?
Elimination Chamber, one of the matches may be good. But as far as Fastlane, what more am I going to say about it? I mean, can't we just have one pay-per-view before WrestleMania instead of two?
I know, right? Man, it's gonna just think it's gonna be annoying when we gotta throw in fucking Roadblock in our series because we're talking about the main events before Mania. There was at one point 3 pay-per-views before Mania. Remember that? I think we had a Chamber, Fastlane, and then Roadblock was literally, I think, 2 weeks before Mania. Roadblock was so gay. But we'll talk about that on the next episode. The next episode on the Road to Potomania. I think the next episode of Road to Potomania will actually be our recap of Elimination Chamber. So that's what it'll be. So we'll have to watch Elimination Chamber this Sunday. We'll watch Elimination Chamber. We'll come back. We'll give our response. We'll review it. Chat about it. We're on the Road to Potomania. We're giving our opinions. Do you agree? If not, well, you're probably a loser. But also, you're listening to Opinions and Beer.
We are a